Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about my favorite 35mm SLR and a couple more reasons why it's probably the only one you'll ever need. Let's get into it. A couple of months ago I did a video about why the Canon A1 is my favorite, and now that I've owned this camera for about 3 years, I thought now is probably a good time to give another review, another long-term review. Basically, I didn't want to repeat what I said before. If you haven't seen the original video, check out that thing over here, wherever it is. And the long and short of it, the too long didn't read version of this video is just that this camera smooths out and just makes the shooting experience so much easier than all the other cameras that I have. And firstly, it's the front dial to sort of quickly change the aperture or the shutter speed, depending if you're on aperture priority or shutter priority respectively. And the reason why this is such a kick-ass, bomb-ass feature is because of the fact that it means that you never have to remove the camera from your face. So let's say you got your composition, you've got your focus, you got your composition, and then you half press, and then the meter's telling you that you're overexposed or underexposed, or you're just not at the aperture that you want to be at. And instead of having to take the camera away from your face and then look at the camera and then reset it, instead of doing that, all you do is just move the wheel back and forth. And before, I never thought of that as a huge selling point or whatever. But when you use cameras a lot, when you shoot a lot, you sort of realize that you sort of gravitate towards the one that just to the point of least resistance. And having this little front dial, if you're taking hundreds and hundreds of photos in a day and you're constantly checking maybe once or twice per shot, and just having that front dial, being able to change the settings to refine and sort of finesse your exposure without having to remove the camera from your face, it's just a really nice touch, a really nice touch that makes the shooting experience so much more enjoyable. And on top of that, not having to remove the camera from your face means that you're less likely to miss the shot. That action of just moving the camera away from your face and then bring it back, in that time you could have easily missed your subject. So the second reason why I love this camera, and that is the display. The digital display in the viewfinder is head and shoulders above anything that I've used. I can't speak for the Nikon F3 or any of the other ones. I'm just, as I said before, I can only talk about the cameras that I've used myself. If you half press the shutter button, if you just half press the shutter button, you'll see your settings in the display. It's just another time-saving feature. Again, as I said, if you're constantly having to flick in between the viewfinder, removing the camera from your face, you're wasting time. After a while, it's going to get annoying. And just having something that will speed up the process it's just what you want. In terms of the displays that show you what your settings are, especially the ones that I've used, they've just been no match in comparison to the one in the A1. So for example, in the XA, you have an analog display of the shutter speeds, but it's really hard to see. So in bright lighting situations, it's nigh on impossible to see that display. It's a similar thing in the Minolta X700. A lot of times, if you want to see what your shutter speed is through the viewfinder, you kind of have to look, you kind of have to reposition the camera in order to see it. Once or twice is okay, but you'll find yourself I found myself doing that a lot of the times. And in bright light situations, it's just annoying if you don't know what your settings are, and having to, again, as I said, removing the camera from your face, to see what it is just annoying. It can lead to you over or underexposing a shot, without you intending to do so. If you don't see the display, it's really easy for you to shoot a shot at a shutter speed that you wouldn't necessarily want to. Whereas with the A1, because of the fact that it's such a bright, such an easily visible display, even in dark and bright situations, if the camera's on a really slow shutter speed, I can quickly change my settings or not take the shot at all. Knowing my settings all the time really easily ensures that I don't take blurry photos when I don't want to. Of course, these are small things, but over time you'll find that you will always gravitate towards the camera that provides the least resistance. Because of those little things, I'm always picking up this camera more often than I do any of my other ones. The third awesome feature about this camera is the light meter. Yes, a light meter is just about the same as any other one. It doesn't mean that this light meter meters the scene better than any other ones. It's just the way it conveys the information. It conveys the information, your settings, way better than any other sort of camera that has a light meter that I've used myself. So the other cameras that I've used that has a light meter are, they're basically quite primitive, quite basic. So for example, in the Olympus OM1, it's just a faint needle that sort of fluctuates between a positive and minus. It basically tells you whether or not your exposure is on, or it's over or under. That's it. However, in the A1, the settings like the aperture value or the shutter speed value, depending on what mode you're shooting in, will actually blink to tell you that your shot is overexposed. And that is just a far easier way to realize whether or not you're overexposed, because in the OM1 where the needle hit the plus sign, that isn't as obvious. Your brain doesn't register as easily that that the shot is overexposed. That doesn't grab your attention quite as well as as a flashing number, as a blinking sort of alarm bell. And that is a reason why I've shot many over or underexposed shots with my OM1, because of the fact that just a needle moving up and down isn't as good at telling you that you're overexposed as a blinking sort of actual something blinking in your face. So not only does the camera tell you whether or not you're over or underexposed, but it'll also, when shooting in manual, it'll also suggest settings to help you get a correct exposure. Essentially what that means is that you can shoot in manual without needing an external light meter. This is basically like the equivalent of having like training wheels on your bike. Set the aperture to, let's say, 5.6. You might think to yourself, well, am I actually shooting at 2.8? I've got it set to 5.6. No, this is just basically the light meter, suggesting to you, hey, maybe you want to be shooting at 2.8 because to get a proper exposure. So so you have that creative control, but at the same time you have that nice sort of safety net. It's like riding your bike all by yourself, but having those training wheels there just ensures that you don't face plant the ground. It's especially useful if you're, let's say, a beginner. You have no idea how the exposure triangle works. And another small thing is the fact that I can turn the camera on and off with just one hand. So when I'm not using the camera and I'm walking around, I like to turn the battery, turn the camera off just to save battery. But then I can quickly turn the camera back on. I can do so many things with just one hand. And yeah, guys, that's basically it. Now, I'm not saying that these features aren't available on other cameras. They probably are. I'm just talking about my experience with this camera, and I'm just showing you guys why. In terms of functionality, in terms of ease of use, this camera is by far the best that I own, and that's and it's probably no surprise why I use it the most often. It's the reason why I feature it on this channel so often. Smooths out and just makes the shooting experience just so much more seamless, so much easier than all my other cameras. Anyways, guys, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed the video. Yeah, if you don't know how we do things around here, I upload to the channel twice a week. Yep, that's right, twice a week. Leave a nice comment down below. I reply to all of them. Follow me on Instagram at Zain Shoots Film. I post there daily, apart from on the weekends. And check out my portfolio at zainreza.com. And with all that said and done, guys, keep learning, keep shooting. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.